Hi Naveen, I see you
Yeah,
now. Are you able to see me?
I think I need to change
Able to see- Are you able to see the share screen on
just
the
trying to
screen?
see if I can invert this camera. Alright. Can you just give me a moment? Change.
Yes, Naveen.
Somehow the camera was not getting detected, so I was trying to plug in an alternate camera.
Oh, okay, Naveen.
Am I still not able to?
No, Naveen, you are still not visible. If you are having some issue with the video, do you want to share the material with one of us and then we will present, or
I
you are
will be
able to
able to
present?
present. I'll just give me a moment. I think because of the let me just join. Let me just go back and join again. Okay.
Sure, Naveen. So, hi everybody. Naveen is trying to see how he can get into, with his camera and sharing. So, let us give him a few minutes. Till that point, I just wanted to update everybody a couple of things. Uh, Whatever questions you have, please keep on putting it into your chat window for the session so that we will try and get a few answered towards the end. Second is polls will be on in some time. By now, you all know what a poll is. So, as soon as they have switched on the polls, I would request you to uh, please vote your vote. So, let us wait now for Naveen to join.
Okay.
There he
Okay.
is.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
So, welcome Naveen to the session. I think people are already waiting for you, so we will not take too much of your time. Do you want to share your screen and start presenting? So, just one thing, Naveen, if do you want us to remind you of 10 minutes before the session ends, or how do you want to take it up?
You can go ahead and remind me. I'm hoping that it doesn't take so much time. It will be more of probably.
All right. All right. So me or Naveen here, who are your volunteers for the session, would put a message in the chat window. All right, Naveen, over to you, sir.
Super. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining in. And I'm sure people wouldn't have just read that, smart people, and then join the session that, okay, I want to prove that we are smart and then come into this session. I'm hoping that by end of this session, we will be able to get some insights as to how the product release happens and what are the aspects that we go forward looking at the product itself in the market. Let me directly jump into this. Release is nothing but talking about when, what, how you give your product to your users. So you develop the product, but that's with you, and you need to give it to your customer, give it to your user, and that step is a release of a product. And you decide strategically when to give, what to give, how to give it. Just imagine if you just keep building the product, but you don't give the product to the user at the right time, the value that the user sees is really bad. I can give you an example. Imagine a movie being produced, directed, and the movie does not get released at the right time. What I mean by right time is when the audience are waiting for some entertainment, when the audience have time to go to the movies theaters and watch them. You release it during the examination, or you release it during the time when there is a lot of disturbances. Your movie may be good, but there is nobody who's going to come to your product and watch it. So releasing is as important as you build it. And there's a lot of psychology, a lot of strategy involved in it. Predominantly, you have two types of releases. One is called as a time-based release that you are able to see on the left-hand side. And then the other one is the scope-based release. The time-based release is where you decide on, hey, this is my time. I fix a time, 16th of December. 16th of December is my birthday. I would like to release the product to my customers on my birthday with a big bang function. Can anybody stop it? No, of course not. Because it is my strategy to decide when I should give it to my customer, my users, the product that I've developed. So releasing on a specific date, specific time is one of the strategies. There's another strategy, which is still a time-based release, but this is more of a regular cadence, where you will start thinking about, can we release it every day at a given time? Say every day 4 o'clock you get a release. That means the customer get to use your product every day 4 o'clock. That's a daily release, or a weekly release every Monday of the week. Bi-weekly, every alternate Mondays, you get a release. That means the product, the customers are going to get, users are going to get the product in their hands to use it. And similarly, there are different cadence of releases. All these things fall under a time-based release, wherein time becomes a very important parameter for you to decide when you want to release. The next one comes up is a scope-based release. In fact, in a scope-based release, you can fix the scope. I want to release 75 features. I mean, even if there are 74 features which are completed, I'm not going to release it. I'm going to wait till the 75th feature. And that is scope-based release. Let me give you some example on this. If you are a movie producer, You will release the movie when the movie is 100% complete. That's a scope-based release. Now just imagine if you are a TV episode producer, then you would want to go ahead and release it on a regular cadence. And that's a regular cadence release every day. And when you look at the time-based release, scope becomes a variable. Your focus is on the time, and the scope is where you start playing around strategically. Whereas in a scope-based release, time becomes a variable. The movie can be released this month, maybe next month, but it cannot be released halfway through. So think over it. There are predominantly two strategies for releases, and all your releases will fall under one or the other combination of this. Here is an example. I mean, you may want to release it like this, wherein you have a release version 1.0, release version 2.0, release version 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, and so on over a period of time. Maybe release 3.0, which means you decided to give your product to your customer at that point of time. Now, this is a very raw picture. Now, the bars that you see, the lines that you see there horizontally, those are the roadmap. So I've just overlapped the roadmap on the release. Roadmap talks about how the product evolves over a period of time. Roadmap talks about how the product is built over a period of time. How do you imagine a product being evolved? Now, you can think of this as a movie itself. The director of a movie will know and imagine what the movie sequence is going to be. How is it going to turn out to be? What is the value that the end user is going to look at? Exactly that way. We have a release in which roadmap is going to talk exactly that way. The roadmap is going to talk about how we are going to build the product, how the product is going to evolve over a period of time. But release is going to talk about when we are going to give it to the customer, user. Here I'm going to use the word customer and user interchangeably. They mean the person who's going to use your product. So remember this picture. You're going to see this over and again, and we'll talk about the smartness of the people who release it. And now by now you know whom I'm referring to. It's a product owner. Let's try to understand the life cycle of a product. Life cycle of a product goes through different stages. Predominantly there are 4 stages. Sometimes people even consider the 5th stage. Here are the stages. The first stage is a R&D stage. That's where your product is getting developed. A lot of research, a lot of validation, confirmation, verification, a lot of things goes on in finding out, is your product really fit for the market? And you develop the product. Once you develop the product, when I say develop the product in a usable state for a user, you want to launch it to the customer. You want to give it to the customer. That's your first launch. That's what is a product launch. And you give that product to the market, it becomes an introduction. So the product gets into the introduction phase, wherein a lot of users are going to get started with. They may like your product, they may not like your product. They'll start giving the social sentiments, feedbacks, and get a lot of churn on your product. So you have an introduction phase. Then gets into the next phase where the product, as it crosses the chasm of, okay, there is a traction for your product, it is worthwhile taking the money from the user's pocket and give it to you. That means you have created a desire to buy. The product starts getting more revenue, more sales, and the growth phase of the product starts off. So the growth phase, you'll see that a lot of revenue generation comes over. And then over a period of time, the product gets into the mature state, where your investment is minimal, but your returns are actually on a maximum side. So you all want to be on a growth and a maturity phase. Your product is getting more returns there. And as time progresses, there's a lot of changes in the industry, a lot of competition. So your product would eventually get into a decline. Now this curve that I've shown here is a non-linear on a time axis. The time axis, which is a horizontal, is a non-linear curve. So the growth itself may take 2 years, 5 years. Maturity itself may take 5 years. Decline may take 3 years, 5 years. It's a non-linear scale. Now, in order to understand the releases, let's go deeper into each one of the section and see what is happening in each group, each stages. In the release related to the R&D stage, that's the first stage. So you see that the R&D is going on, and I have put that R&D below the time axis because it is talking about there is no returns as of now. You're actually spending money. There is no returns from the product. There's nobody who's paid you for it. So what happens is at that point of time, you have sprints or you may have an iteration where specifically talking about Scrum, you have sprints, and every sprint you're going to iterate over. You're going to inspect and adapt on your functionality. So you have a product backlog, you prioritize it, take the product backlog item, understand what needs to be done, what is valuable, develop the product, inspect and adapt on the product increment, and then go to the next set of. So this continues till the point you have decided my product is good to go ahead and be launched in the market. This is where every time you release the product, you're not actually releasing the product to the end user. You may be releasing the product to a selected few users, and the whole focus is for validation, discovery, and evaluation of is my functionality, is my product really going to make sense to the customer, end user, who's ready to take their money and give it to you? Do they create a desire to buy? So this is where all your validation checkpoints, product discovery, strategies like A/B testing, strategies like alpha beta users, and then getting onto the market with market study. A lot of things happen in this, which is predominantly a strategically a verification and validation within the system. So none of your end users have really got hold of it. Now, the product is almost ready. Let's assume that you build the product over a couple of iterations, sprints, and it's ready to be released. At this point of time, the product gets into the market. Now we have what is called as release during the introduction phase. Now, in the introduction of the product, what happens is market reaction is what you look at, feedback, competition. You look at the validating your own product, the market fit. Yes, what you got a validation and a checkpoints before the product launch was internal. You just selected a few people. But now the product is available for the rest of the world. Now just consider as a movie as a product. When the movie is being created, developed, built, when you're making a movie, shooting it, there's a lot of internal people who will look at the movie, review the movie, give you feedback, maybe you reshoot the whole sequence. But then once it is launched to the customer, that means once it is released in the market, in the theater, now it is open for public. Now the feedback is going to be much different than what you had, probably. So you need to keep an eye on that. So you look at the feedback, competition, validating the market fit, and a lot of things. And this is where you have innovators coming into your product. Innovators are those set of people. This is like a product adaptation cycle where innovators are those people who will look at your product and want to grab your product for the technology advancement you have. They would like to get hold of the product as early as possible. They want to be the first movers. Think about it as a first day, first show people. They would rather book the ticket 1 week before or stay overnight to book a ticket for the first day, first show. Yeah, they have their own reasons. Exactly that way. Innovators are those people who will be following you and they have their own reasons to grab your product. And these are the first people who are going to give a feedback and create a market reaction. Now, during this introduction phase, the product is already available. Early adopters come into picture. The early adopters are those people who are following you for a long time. They look at your strategies, they look at your announcements, they look at your Twitters, social networks, they see what kind of work you do, they look at your background works or the products, and then take a feedback from the innovators. And these people will try to invest more money and buy your product even though it is costly. Introduction. What innovators and early adopters are looking at: competitive product, market capture, early. Then comes the growth. In the growth, we have the early adopters and early majority. As you start looking at the early adopters and early majority, early adopters, we saw that they are the one who keep following you but then come over. Early majority are those people who will look at the feedback from the early adopters and they look for competitiveness. Is it worth giving this money? Is it worth the brand? Is it worth purchasing this product? And this is the time where people would look at your product with competitive functionality. There's a lot more feedback coming up. And in the growth phase, you would like to introduce a lot of entry barriers so that your competitors don't get into the market. So you look at a growth barrier, entry barrier to your competitors. Because in the growth phase, your product is getting traction in the market. There are a lot of people trying to buy it. You don't want competitors there. You want to hold the attention of the users. So your strategies would go in around that. So you need to understand the early majority coming into picture, growth stage. And as the product starts getting in, by the way, early majority is about 34-35% of the people of your total user base. Then comes the maturity. Maturity is a point where the product, you're not going to have any new functionality. You're going to say, oh, no, we are not going to get into a new functionality. We're going to just maintain this. We are happy. Customers are happy. You see the feedback from the innovators, feedback from the early adopters, and then early majority. Feedback is positive. So the product is doing good. We don't want to add too many features, but then you want to maintain. Make sure that there are people who are the customers who are retained. Now, there is a set of people waiting for you, almost 35% late majority. They usually enter in this mature phase because they are ready to wait. They want to make sure that the product they are trying to purchase is stable, is getting value for money. They will equate it and evaluate with other products that are in the market that will solve their problems. So they look for it. They think twice before they purchase your product, which means they don't want too many variations. They want more stable stuff. Late majority, predominantly driven by feedback and all the previous stages, and competitive. So this is the point where the product is getting money. You don't want to invest more in the development of the product. So you reduce the cost, the returns are increasing, so your ROI is high, and you want to stay put. This is like milking the cow. It's a cash cow product. Yeah, just sit down, enjoy. But then it does not last for a long time. It gets into the decline. What happens in the decline? The laggards come in. Who are laggards? If I have to take an example of a movie and explain you the laggards, it is those people who are in the house on a Sunday afternoon. They don't have any work. They sit in front of a computer, TV, television, and the television has a choice of playing any movie of their choice or of their availability. And this person, without changing the channel, they look at the movie. There was no choice. They did not want it, but it was just present. I'm going to pick it up. And these are the people who are least worried about the brand, the functionality, nothing. They are just forced to use it. Yeah. I'll tell you, my grandmother, she's almost like 85 to 90 years now. All through her life, she never used a phone. But now she has a phone. Why? Because most of the transaction of the bank and other identity happens on a phone OTPs. So she has been forced to use a phone. I don't think you can show her an Apple phone, Samsung phone, Nokia phone, and then please her to buy a touch panel, touch screen phones. No, she is not going to be willing to. And this is the point where the decline of a product. Nobody is trying to buy your product. It's only a necessity. So you don't want to build the product with new functionality. You don't want to even enhance the product. You don't want to even fix the problems. You just sit back, relax, and say, end of life. I'm not going to do anything. We probably would focus on something else. By the way, this is all the life cycle that we said. Now let's look at this. The same life cycle for a product. Every product will go through. Timelines may differ. Sometimes the product may not even go to the growth phase because there is a barrier crossing the chasm. And if you don't get the traction, the movie is released first day, second day. There are no people watching the movie. The movie is gone. Exactly that way. The product is not used. It will be trashed. The same curve will also be applied for a technology life cycle. That means what kind of technology are you using. Now, the technology life cycle and the product life cycle, we can look at it together and there are some really interesting thought process that gets in. Especially for a product owner, I would strongly recommend them to look at it because this is where the strategy evolves. Here are the 4 conditions or 4 stages that I've put in. Let's look at them. Case 1 on the first one. The orange color is a technology life cycle and the green color represents a product life cycle. In a technology life cycle, the first case, the technology is just getting introduced to the market. That means it is new. But then the product is already in the growth phase. Wow. If your product is in the growth phase and you're using a technology which is relatively new, which means you are a market leader. You're going to dictate the market. You're going to look at what the market next trend is going to be. And you always tend to create a barrier because you don't want the competitors to come in. So you're creating a barrier. And by virtue of using a new technology, your market is already stabilized. So you can experiment. Even if the technology fails, your product is already hit. It is giving you a lot of returns. So you will survive. Let's go to case number 2, in which the technology is matured or it is getting into the growth and mature state. That means really good phase. People have accepted this technology. But then the product that you are building is just getting into the market. You're just doing the introduction, launching the product. At this point, you have a lot of competition. There's a huge entry barrier. Why? Because people who are from the market 1, case 1, they're going to have the context. What do you mean by entry barrier? There are already people in the market who are market leaders. They're going to put a lot of barrier. So in case 2, you will face a barrier. In case 1, you will create a barrier. Let's go to case 3. Technology is new and getting introduced. Product is new, getting introduced. You're taking a high risk. We never know if both technology and product is going to be accepted by the users. So high risk, maybe you may get a high returns. So if you pass, yes, your product is accepted, you will get a lot of returns. Let's go to the next one. Technology is getting into decline, but your product is new. Boy, I would say just stay away. I mean, what are you trying to do with introducing a product on a dying technology? Just imagine if somebody comes and says, let us create a phone, touch panel on a 2G technology. I will say, hold on, what is your use? What is that you're trying to achieve? I mean, why not 5G? Yeah, it gets you into 3. You may want to evaluate that. So that's where very interestingly, you have to look at what is your technology, and every product might use different technologies, and that is where the competitiveness comes into picture. Now let us look at this. If you are a product owner and you want to really focus on getting best out of your market, this is what you will do. The black line that I have is one product, and as the product gets into the mature and starts declining, you will start your next version of the product on a new technology. And then as the green line, a new technology on a product is getting to decline, you will use the next one. That means you are taking support of a technology to be ahead of the market, to be ahead of the competition, and then go ahead, introduce your product idea, your problem space that you're trying to solve on a new platform. And this may take years. So it's not a short duration, it's a long ongoing. That's how you survive. Now let's look at this. If you have understood these product life cycle, the technology life cycle, and you want to release it to the customer, remember the release is got a lot of strategy, a lot of thinking. How do you give it? When do you give it? What do you give it to your customer? There are a couple of strategies. I have listed down 4 strategies. The first strategy, S1, is you fix the date, 25th of November, $10 million, and high quality. That's fixed. I want to release a product on 25th of November. Why? Maybe that's my birthday and I want to release it. Good. 25th of November, nobody can stop you. You release the product and the budget for that is 10 million, high quality. Scope becomes a variable. You may release 50 or 80 on that day. It's okay. Because your focus was on fixing time, cost, and quality. Similarly, strategy 2, you fix the scope, cost, and quality. So time becomes a variable. I want to deliver 75 features, time is a variable. So if you look at the case, strategy 1 and strategy 2, first one is a typical case of a fixed time release. Second one is a typical case of a fixed scope release. Let's look at the variation now. Strategy 3, You have scope fixed, time fixed. Because you have fixed the quality, now it comes into the cost variation. So cost becomes variable. You may spend 10 million, 25 million. I don't know how much it is going to cost. But you will get all 75 features on 31st of November. Now let's go to the next one. You have 75 features on 25th of November within $10 million. That means your quality is going to be varied. Now these are all different strategies. Now you can go ahead and create different combinations of one variable, two variables and two fixed, one variable, two variables, three variables and one fixed. You can combine. But then what is more important is to understand what is the impact of these strategies. Here are the impacts. If you go with a scope variable, MVP is going to be an impact. So what do I mean by that? If you are focused on MVP releases, you probably wouldn't use S1 strategy. If you are focused on time to market, you wouldn't use S2 strategy. Don't use, because time is a variable there and your focus is time to market. So this is a conflicting stuff. When you don't have a time to market pressure, then go ahead and use S2. It is okay. So strategically, you have to think over it. The third one is return on investment. If your company says, no, I can't, I need more returns, I need 10x returns. So you cannot use return on investment as a variable. And of course, brand is an impact where you have a defect variation. So all these things have some more the other variation. Now, as you start getting into different combinations, you will see there are combinations of these impacts coming up. But then most of the times when I talk to some of the people, they say, hey, Naveen, in our company, what we want is this. We want a strategy which is 25th of November. We need all 75 features, $10 million, and with high quality. My answer, God save you. God save you. Because in my experience, I have not read any book, any place, anybody who's promised me that time, cost, scope, and quality, everything is fixed and we could deliver. We are not talking about in a simple zone. We are talking about it in a complex zone. I have not read it. So there has to be something which is variable to handle that complexity, because complexity itself means technology is varying, the domain is varying, or there is an uncertainty there. So we need to take care of it. So don't get into the God save you zone and then look for strategies to save. It's probably not going to work. It's easier having one variable. Now look at this. Someone's wrong strategy will lead to someone else working overnight, weekends, and more than 40 hours a day, or 40 hours a week. Think over, if you are working overnight, weekends, or more than 40 hours a week, there could be a problem in someone else's strategy. And that strategy could be the manager strategy, the product owner strategy, organization strategy. Now I would like to get in. We have understood the life cycle. We have understood there are different ways of strategic decision making for releases. Now the same picture, now I'm overlapping it with what was my strategy. In the first one, release version 1.0, we picked up a strategy, fixed scope, fixed time, variable cost. Wow. Fixed time, fixed scope. Can I do it? Yes. Why? Because fixed time will give me time to market. Fixed scope will give me minimum viable product or the decision on the scope. And variable cost, yes, there is a return on investment variable. It's okay. That's my strategy. Release version 2.0, fixed scope, fixed time, variable cost. It's okay. That's my strategy. And then comes 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. That is where I have fixed time, fixed cost. Now, do you see that I have changed from version 1.1, version 1.2 to version 2.1, 2.2? I've changed my strategy in my release, which is regular cadence, variable scope. And then I have version 3.0, which is scope fixed, time fixed, cost as a variable. So every time you go with a release, try to get into that context of what is fixed, what is variable, and where is the impact, and how am I going to play with that variable part. That's very important, very interesting. But it is not as simple. The point is, why did I choose fixed scope, fixed time, cost as variable at this point of time? The reason is I'll draw a curve on this, and I'm hoping that it will give you a aha moment there. I hope you realize this. product lifecycle. And that is in the early stages, when the product is getting developed, you have internal releases, but then when you hit the market, you want to release it with version 1.0, and that's a minimum viable product. I want to hit the market with my minimum features, and my innovators are going to look at my product. So I want to have a fixed scope, fixed time. It's okay to give it some money, cost, because as of now, I'm not getting any returns. But that cost, if I look forward for saving the cost, my product will not hit the right time with the right scope. The release strategy there. And the similar way, release 2.0, because I'm going to get the early adopters there. So innovators and early adopters getting the good feedback, getting the traction, crossing the chasm is more important. So I am okay to spend some cost there. And remember, the growth phase and the maturity phase is like for years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So you should invest. That's where strategically we're going to invest. And after that, as the team gets into the growth, as the product gets into the growth, remember, I want to create a barrier, entry barrier for my opposition, for my competitors. So as soon as I build any functionality, I'm going to deliver it, or I'm going to look at what is a variable, what is a fixed time, regular cadence. I'm going to release it. At regular cadence, I want the customer to upgrade and get a new functionality, new update, new things, because I want them to be feeling like we are caring you, we are really caring about you, and you don't have to look at the other places, other competitors. Stick to our product. We are here. And this continues. Now, I hope you got the traction of, okay, fixed, what are the different strategies that goes on, and how the product lifecycle overlap on the release makes really big sense on choosing which one to be variable, which one to be fixed. On top of this, I would say it's not just about releasing the product. I need to look at how the customers are going to look at my product. That means how is the customer's emotions. So you all know this. This is a Kano model, which talks about basic functionalities, linear and performance functionalities, attractors, reverse categories, all these different categories of functionalities. Yes. Now, having this knowledge, how my customers are going to feel about the functionalities that we are developing, I can overlap and make a big, good impact on my release. Example, with this knowledge and the release strategies that we have picked up, I can overlap. I can say, wow, on my first release, version 1.0, yes, I'm going to make it as a fixed scope, fixed time, variable cost release. But what am I going to release in that fixed scope? I'm going to release, say, X percentage of wow factors, Y percentage of performance factors, some percentage of must-have, some indifferent, some amount of reverse category features, and a combination of these things will give me that minimum viable product that I'm looking at, I would release. That's my strategy. So now you are looking at, I am looking at the market traction, feedback, a lot of identification, I mean, a lot of product discovery, which has gone in the background, and then release the product, which is making more sense so that people desire to buy the product. Similarly, the version 2.0, I have another X percentage of wow factor, performance, and all these things. And this continues. And as you see, in the growth phase and getting into the mature phase, I have feedback as the most important factor. I'm going to look at the market, feedback from the competition, feedback from the market users, feedback from the stakeholders. That becomes the most important aspect. And that is where I'm going to release regularly. Scope is a variable. Why? I'm not release everything, but I will release at regular interval. I'll look at competition. Yeah. Now, this is one of the strategies that goes in. It's not just about releasing something. It is about releasing what matters. Have you heard of this blue ocean strategy? Something people talk about the Apple phones used way back in 2007. Yeah. They eliminated certain features. They reduced some of the features from the offering in the industry standards. And then they raised the bar and then created something new. And if you look at this, they eliminated the physical keyboard. They created a soft keyboard. That's a touch panel. Now that's a very interesting one. Now you just imagine if you go to the user and ask, hey, how would you feel if the keyboard is absent on a phone? Every user would be shocked. In 2007, they will say, what nonsense? How will I dial something? I need a keyboard. In fact, there are people who are asking for foldable keyboards, QWERTY keyboards, now your keypads and things like that. So now what is happening? You completely eliminated that. Now, if you use Kano model and ask them, they're going to say it is a must-have. But Blue Ocean Strategy said, no, eliminate it. Now you eliminated something, but that's a must-have feature or a must-have. Now you took a support of a new technology. This is what I was talking about. If somebody wants to enter a field, just entering the same product field or a product solution space with the same functionality may not get the traction to buy. You may want to get into a place where you understand that there is a technology which is creating the desire to buy. Now you have the innovators, early adopters. They feel like, wow, let's try it out. Feedback plays a big role, and then you go on. Now, if I have to overlap this Blue Ocean strategy also into prioritizing the product backlog items, looking at the release strategies, looking at what is fixed, what is variable, probably this is how I would consider. In the release version 1.0, yes, I have WoW features, but then those WoW features will be probably something new created, something new that is coming up. I would have reduced some of the functionalities, I've eliminated some of the things, but I will look into Blue Ocean strategies and then release version 1.0. That is how I would be competing with the existing product in the market. And then this will continue till the product release. This is how, if you look at the product release itself, it does not just blindly take the requirements, develop the product, give it into somebody's hand so that they can release it to the customer. No, there's a lot of psychology and a lot of thought process behind it. Now the question is, do you really rush to release a product? Think about it. Are you blindly rushing to release a product? Are your customers just blindly asking, release product, oh, deadline, release the product, deadline, release the product? Is that what you want? Or do you really think about why do you want to release a product? Why? And who is your audience? Are you releasing the product to the existing, say, innovators or the early adopters? What kind of person are you releasing this product to? What is that they want? Are you thinking about it? Think about it. Don't just rush to release. Release is very simple. Give it to the customer. You can give it to the customer anytime, but then a good strategy. Remember, movie is a movie. Release at the right time gives you a lot of returns. Think about your product. Think about your strategies. Are you smart? Thank you so much.
No questions? People are appreciating. Bhaskar says that he enjoyed, Abhilasha enjoyed. But guys, please express your appreciation via the polls, I request. Please go and vote there.
Okay, I see one person. What is MVP? MVP is minimum viable product. Thank you so much for all the appreciation that is coming in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Looks like your session was really so bang on that they don't have specific questions, Naveen. Thank you. I personally enjoyed it.
Or was it like my release of this particular topic was overhead transmission?
No, absolutely not. In fact,
that is coming up.
there is a question. Yeah, please. No, I was just going to read the question.
I just lost it.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Can you please share some of the best reading books to become a product manager from a business analyst? Multiple questions in that one question, right?
So, Mohammed, I would put it this way, Mohammed. If you want to be a product manager, which is like a strategic part of product ownership and a lot of thinking that I said, all you have to do is forget about books does help you. And I would say Roman Pitcher, his book is really good. You need to read his books. That's very good. Product Management Desk is a good book. But what I have learned is this: look around, take up a product, in your hand and try to understand what is the vision for this, what is the roadmap for this, what are the functionalities, why did we create this, when did they release it, what are the updates that they have done, why they have done it. And if you start looking at the product and decode it, that means you do a reverse engineering, I'm sure you will be more of a strategic product owner, okay, and a product manager. So that will be a best way to go ahead. But there are a lot of books. Just connect with me. I will share some of the books that are available.
Thanks, Naveen. That does help. Now, Fanikar Bhaskar wants to know if the product maturity phase can also have a lot of new
Yes. So
features.
what happens is this: in the product maturity phase, you don't want to invest more money onto the existing product. You want to invest the money onto the new platform or a new technology area for that product. So let's take this. You have Microsoft Office. Few years back, Microsoft Office had a platform wherein you can save the documents on the local system. Now, how many features are you going to develop on the local system save? So they would rather say, okay, our product is really suffice. Let's go to the next one. We'll go ahead and say, we're going to go ahead and release it on save on cloud. So they would probably invest money on saving on cloud as the cloud technology to be the next step rather than introducing it in the existing stuff. Does that make sense? So in the matured
Absolutely.
state, we want to invest on an upcoming new version of a product and don't want to disturb the existing product, which is really fetching us money. That's a cash cow. Don't do anything. Let it go on. And you start looking at the differentiator for the next upcoming version of the product. So usually you don't do it. And I will tell you one more interesting fact. Have you observed this? Most of the people, especially from India, there are people who are cribbing about, hey, we don't get innovative work, we don't get good work, we don't get to work on new technology, all these things. That's because the mindset required for working in introduction and growth phase, R&D phase, is like you have to be very competitive, market analysis, you're pressurized, you are under a high pressure to deliver. But when it comes to the maintenance, when it comes to the matured phase, the product is in the mature phase. So what happens? They'll sit back and relax. So there is a relaxed mindset of a team. There is no high pressure on that. So most of the companies would try to delegate that maintenance work to some other team, some other company. And that's where you see a lot of traction. So you have a high pressure team or a high people who are working under high pressure. They cannot work under the low pressure with motivation. So they try to shift over to a new product on a new baseline.
Thanks, Naveen. Miraj has one more question. He's asking what on a new product, what percentage is must have and what are the percentage of wow features for the first release? Also, what interval you release a product for a new software
Miraj,
launch?
that's almost the full topic that we were discussing about. It takes into account of the release that you want to do, what percentage of functionalities want to be a must-have, wow features, and other combination. That depends on what is your market study, what is your market, what is your product. So I would put it this way: whenever you launch the product to the market, the end user, the customer, think in the customer point of view. I would always try to take the money from my pocket and give it to you, desire to buy, only when I see a differentiator. So I need to see some wow factors and some performance factors in your product. If I don't see that, probably I wouldn't go ahead and buy your product. So you decide what percentage of functionalities will create that desire to buy. That's a good percentage. And if you have, let's say, 100 functionalities, don't give all 100 in the first release. That's another nonsense, because you want to create that entry barrier slowly. So you give, say, some X percentage, usually about 10 to 25 percentage, and then you give another 10 to 20 percentage, and then another few. So you gradually go on. Every release, your customer is feeling like, wow, there is something new. Wow, there is something new. Well, I'm liking it. So keep the traction by the user always. That's the way to go ahead. There is no standard number of that is available. Okay. And what interval do you want to give? Here is the point. I think in the introduction, in the growth, you want to do it as early as possible. That was what was the picture that I was showing. You go with a time-based release. You fix the interval. Is it going to be, if your customer is okay to take it every day, give it every day. It's good. If your customer is only going to take it at every couple of days, a week or month, then give it at that point. So you should decide on what time interval is feasible, sensible to the user. And at that point of time, whatever is 100% completed, that is what you're going to give, because scope is a variable there. So you don't want to give 100 items. You want to give at a regular interval. Yeah.
Thanks, Naveen. Actually, we enjoyed the question answers as much as the session itself. So thank you for that. And I think with that, we can close the session.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you so much.
Awesome.
You can leave, Naveen, if you want. Should be orange button, yeah.